Hello guys. Welcome to another monthly wrap up. Welcome to our March monthly wrap up. I feel like March has been a really good month and we actually got through quite a lot of the March TBR. I think this is probably the best that I've done with a TBR. Probably ever, actually. Let me double check. I ended up reading 5 out of the 7 books we chose for our March TBR. Plus more because I read 7 books in total this month as well. So let's get straight into the books that I read this month. We started off very strong with Our Infinite Fates by Laura Stephen, which I actually read for a reading vlog, and I will leave the link to that down below in case you want to see all my thoughts throughout reading this and everything. But when I tell you, this book has literally altered my brain chemistry. There is something about this book that has just stuck with me literally the entire month of March. I finished this quite early on in March and it's literally not left my mind since. This is a romantasy that basically centers around these two soulmates, and they're soulmates in every single lifetime. So they find each other and fall in love in every single lifetime, but there's a slight catch because they're actually destined to destroy each other. That whole concept from the get-go, I was immediately sold. And then the actual way that this was written, top tier. It was so beautifully written, it was so poetic, and I also absolutely love the soulmate trope. Anything that has that feeling of they're quite literally destined to be together, I'm just obsessed with, and this book literally had everything that I love. This is one that I literally had to tab as well because there's just so many gorgeous lines in here and I just had to underline it and tab it because I'm quite literally obsessed, if you couldn't tell. I loved this book. I also think it's incredible the research or the knowledge that the author would have had to write this book, because we go between past and present timelines and the past timelines are all set literally centuries ago and they're all set in different places as well, and just be able to capture what it would have been like at that time and also in that culture as well, and in so many different centuries and so many different cultures, was so interesting to read. And it was just done so well. It wasn't done in an overly explained way, it was done in more of a, we're very much put into this century with our main character and we're experiencing it with them. It's that kind of thing. I don't know if I've explained that very well, but I'm just honestly obsessed. I feel like I could talk about this book for hours. And I actually came away from reading this and I think I rated it 4.5 stars originally, but then because it literally didn't leave my brain and it stuck with me so much that I realised that it was a 5-star read. It was a 5-star read, and whenever I think about this book I think it's a 5-star read. I've actually not had that many 5-star reads this year. I think I've only had 3. This is my 3rd one. But I literally cannot recommend this enough. I also think it's a really great one if you want to get into more fantasy, because there's no sort of world building to learn, because it's very much set in the real world and the fantasy elements in here are things that we kind of already know of. Like, it's not, we don't have to learn anything new, if that makes sense. So I do think this is a really great one to start with if you're wanting to get into more fantasy. And if you love fantasy anyway, I would highly recommend this. Obsessed. I'm gonna put it down now because I feel like I'll literally talk about it for hours if I don't stop here. Okay, then I moved on to Summer in the City by Alex Astor. This is actually an ARC edition, which is why it looks like this, but the actual book itself will look like that. And this one was actually a new release in March, and I actually really enjoyed this. I read it very quickly. It was a very easy read. I think I read it in like 2 sittings, just because the writing style and the rom-com kind of vibe was very bingeable and very easy to read. In this one we have our main guy who is a tech billionaire, and we have our main girl who is a screenwriter, and she's currently working on screenwriting for a new film that's coming out that's set in New York. And they basically have this bit of an interaction years ago, doesn't end too well, and then it follows them years later and our main girl moves in to a flat in New York, and it just so happens that her next door neighbour is this guy that she met years ago. It's kind of giving forced proximity. There's also the fake dating trope in here as well, and there is definitely a dislike to love on her part of the relationship. I don't think I would go as far to say that it was enemies to lovers, just because I wasn't really getting enemies vibes, but there was definitely a dislike on her side. Definitely a dislike for him, But enemies to lovers, I'm gonna kind of use that term loosely with this one. The thing that I absolutely loved when I was reading this was how New York literally felt like another character in this book. The way that this wasn't just a rom-com set in New York, but there was actually a purpose for it being set in New York, and I really liked how that was done. Because she's screenwriting this film that is set in New York, she has to basically go to a number of different places that the film is going to take place to kind of get inspiration from it. So there was very much a purpose of it, and it felt like we were getting a mini tour of New York City, which I just absolutely loved. And I was having a really fun time reading it. The only thing that I will say is, what on earth was chapter 30? The little like third act conflict situation, I don't know what that was, and that was the only thing that kind of brought my rating down a bit, just because I feel like it didn't really fit the characters, and it literally got to the point where I was like, okay, well, maybe you're just not compatible. Maybe we should just put a stop to this. Stop while we're ahead, you know? I was literally sat there thinking, okay, I'm not rooting for this couple to be together anymore, which is not what you want in a rom-com. But other than that, if we take that chapter out of it, I did really enjoy it. It was like a 4-star read up until that point, and at the end of this I rated it 3.5 stars. Then I moved on to First Time Caller by B.K. Borison, and this was really cute. This is a Sleepless in Seattle inspired romance. We have Aiden, who is the host of this romance hotline for this radio show, and then we have Lucy, and Lucy's daughter basically calls in on behalf of her to basically find her mum a love life. They basically create this kind of segment for Lucy and her road to find love. So we have Lucy and Aiden spending a lot of time together, and that's basically the premise of this book. I really liked it. It was a really good time. It was a very bingeable book. I really liked the radio show element in here. After every chapter we got like a little transcript as if we were listening to the radio show. I liked how Aiden and Lucy had these kind of inside jokes with each other. I thought that was done really well, and overall it was just a really fun time. It was just a fun time, and I would definitely recommend it. The only thing that I will say is that it was a little bit on the longer side for me, just because I feel like I was kind of ready for it to be wrapping up, but by then I still had like 100 pages left. I do find this very often with romances that are over like 350, 400 pages. I always find that I'm kind of ready for it to wrap up, but that's like a minor thing. Overall, did enjoy it. Very bingeable, very easy to read. I'm really intrigued to read another B.K. Borison book as well, because this was my first one that I've read by them, and I ended up rating this 4 stars. Then I moved on to Heartstopper Volume 4. And this one was actually my least favourite in the series so far. Not by much, I still did really enjoy it, but I feel like it's because this book had a lot of heavier topics they were talking about and things that Charlie was going through that I think are very important, but I did kind of enjoy this read less than I have enjoyed some of the others, just because I think it's a bit of a harder read as well. But like I said, also very important and very necessary, especially for these characters. And I am really looking forward to reading Volume 5 and also watching the show for it. Very excited for that. But I feel like I don't really have too much to say about this one, especially because it's literally like the 4th one in the series. I feel like I can't really say too much. But I will literally read anything with Nick and Charlie and their relationship because I just adore them. I adore them, and I rated this one 3.5 stars. Next, I picked up This Book Kills by Ravina Guron, and this is very much giving a Good Girls Guide to Murder kind of vibe. We basically have Jess, who is at this boarding school, and there's been a murder at this boarding school, and the murder happened in the exact same way as one of the short stories that Jess is responsible for writing. So we have this murder mystery going on. Jess kind of finds herself at the centre of this investigation, and she's also getting sent these mysterious text messages from the killer. So there's a lot going on at this boarding school that she's trying to figure out and trying to solve. I think if you liked A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, you'd also really like this. It was very easy, quick read, and I really liked the whole vibe of all these teenagers at this boarding school and everything kind of kicking off. And I really liked Jess's character, and also I really liked how they showed things that she was dealing with just in general life, as well as it being this murder mystery type situation. The only thing that I will say is that I actually did guess this twist quite early on, but halfway through I did kind of have my doubts about it. So it wasn't overly obvious, it was just kind of a thing that I thought and then I was kind of deterred away from it, but then it actually ended up happening the way that I thought it would. But I wouldn't say that that made me enjoy it any less. It just meant that I didn't have that kind of shock factor at the end when things were revealed, but I don't mind that, especially because this is a YA thriller as well. I still had a really good time reading it and I rated this 3.5 stars. Then I moved on to Heartless by Marissa Meyer. This is basically the Queen of Hearts' backstory before she became the Queen of Hearts. Follows her a lot younger, I think she's 16 or 17 in this, and it's basically her story about falling in love for the first time. First of all, I just really like that whole concept, and this book definitely made me think about the Queen of Hearts differently, even though this book technically has nothing to do with the original Alice in Wonderland. But the way that this was done, it does really make me think about the Queen of Hearts differently, and I'm like, oh, okay, like I kind of feel bad for her now. The thing that absolutely carried this book for me was the Joker. Just Joker has my heart. I honestly think he's become one of my favourite characters of all time. I love him, and every time I pick this book up I was just waiting to get back to a scene with him in. There are parts of Catherine that kind of made me think, oh, okay, you're not that nice all the time, which I don't know whether that was kind of needed to make it believable that she could become the Queen of Hearts, but some of the things she was thinking about other people, or like some of the ways that she behaved, I was like, oh, okay. In general, I feel like she was a likeable character, but there were just some things that stuck out to me and I was like, oh, okay. Okay. But the Joker, love. And I feel like I can't really say my overall thoughts on this. I kind of wish I hadn't known what type of book this was going in, because some of the things that happened in here I wasn't surprised about at all, and I feel like they would have hit differently if I'd gone in not knowing that. So that's why I'm gonna not really say any more about the actual plot of this. This was a really interesting read. It's the first kind of retelling that I've read, I think. And I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed being in this world, and I rated this 3.5 stars. I kind of was deciding between that and a 4-star. It was almost a 4-star read, but I think it's probably more of a 3.5 stars. So that's what we're gonna go with. I feel like every book that I've read this month was a 3.5 stars. Talking of which, I then picked up Swept Away by Beth O'Leary, which is actually an ARC edition of it. This one comes out on the 10th of April. And this, again, was a 3.5 star read. This was a very cute little romance. I really like the concept of this one. We basically follow a one-night stand, and this one-night stand happens on this houseboat, and the houseboat ends up drifting off. They end up lost at sea for a number of days, and this one night stand where they basically thought they were never going to see each other again turns into them literally being stuck on a boat together, lost out at sea. Which I just love that whole concept. I think it's so fun. This is the third book that I've read by Beth O'Leary, and I just find her writing very easy to read, very bingeable, and I feel like they always have some sort of twist in there as well, which I really enjoy in a romance, and this one definitely had an element of that as well. I don't know why, for me, the characters in here kind of felt surface level, and I don't know why that is, because they literally both had a backstory and they had depth to them, but I feel like I wasn't really feeling it. I think that's it. Like, they weren't surface level characters because they did have their whole history and backstory to them. I just didn't feel the connection between me and them. I think that's what it was, which is partly why my rating isn't higher. But I was looking forward to getting back into it and seeing how they were literally going to get off this boat and how they were surviving and everything. So I did find that I was very much looking forward to picking it up again. Again, this is like a 450-page book, which I had the same feeling that I had with First Time Caller of this is a little bit on the long side. But like I said with that one, that's like a minor thing. So it's definitely not a deal breaker. It just got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm kind of ready for us to be wrapping this up. I'm ready for everything to sort itself out. And I actually think the first part of this was slower than the second half. I think it only felt longer because we'd spent so long on this boat with them, and maybe not all the days at the start were necessary for the whole plot of the story. I don't know. But like I said, that's literally a minor thing. And I would definitely recommend this if you want a fun little easy to read romance with a bit of a twist to it as well. And that was actually the last book that I read in March. As always, it's time for Book of the Month. If you're new here, Book of the Month is basically my little shout out to my favourite book of that month that I read. You can probably guess what it is this month. You could probably guess. It's gonna have to be Our Infinite Fates by Laura Stephen. It's gonna have to be. It's gonna have to be. The way that I'm still thinking about this book, the way that I think I will still be thinking about this book in years to come. There's just something about Evelyn and Arden and their story and their connection that honestly just stuck with me. I love them. I literally cannot recommend this book enough. And like I said, it's literally a 5-star read for me. And it's become one of my only 3 5-star reads this year. So obviously it had to be Book of the Month. obviously. But there we have all the books that I read this month. I'm actually quite happy that I got through quite a bit of my March TBR as well, because our Infinite Fate, Summer in the City, Heartless, Heartstopper Volume 4, This Book Kills, they were all on my TBR for this month. So I feel like we've done quite well with the monthly TBR. Please comment your favourite book of this month that you've read. I would absolutely love to know, and I will be replying to your comments. And as always, thank you so much for watching this video. I'm so happy you're here, and I will hopefully see you in my next one.